Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Jack Decker. He's an author of a new amendment to US Constitution, which is meant to reduce the size and scope of the federal government and return power to the states. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome to the show, Jack. We are welcome to India in this online form. And I am sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will want to understand about what you are wanting to do, why you want to downsize the US federal government. You are an author, but first to understand about you to the audience, who is Jack Decker beyond being an author? To help us understand, the audience, so that they want to hear your views in that context.
Sure. I've been a libertarian, which is a political libertarianism is a political philosophy believing in small limited government. I've been there for 40 years. I've been director of public relations and advertising for the Libertarian Party of Dane County. I have run on Libertarian Party ticket for the 76th State Assembly District in Wisconsin. I got 20% of the vote. Here in America, a third party getting 20% of the vote is really, really good. I have been developing this idea over the last 40 years. Parts of this idea came about in a letter to the editor when I was still in college. And over the years, it's developed, and I think now I've fine-tuned it enough to where it is, I think, presentable and usable and has a chance of actually succeeding. So that's kind of my background. Professionally, I've been a marketing consultant for 30 years. For the last 5 years, I've been a trucker. You do something for 30 years, you need a break. So I thought it was the opposite of being a marketer, trucker, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. You get to see this country. It's a huge country, kind of like India. It has everything. It has swamps. It has mountains. It has deserts. It has, fertile land. So, and while you're driving, you get a lot of time to think. And so I've been working on this idea and hammering it down. And I think now is at the right time. Right now in America, there's a presidential election year, a federal election year, but this is every 4 years we elect a president. In between those, we have federal elections in between, which is just for the Congress. But right now, we're about to kick into the federal election year, which typically starts after the Christmas break. It really kind of kicks in. It's already been going on, but that's kind of always been the case. Some people say the presidential election year never ends. But it really kicks in after the Christmas going into the presidential year. So I thought this was the right time. My amendment is called States First Amendment. Here in America, we have a former president who's running again for his second term, called Donald Trump. He has America first. And so I'm kind of playing off that, saying states first, kind of. And what this amendment is it tries to make return power from the federal government back to the states, which in our country, when it was founded, that's what our founding fathers wanted to have. And 100 years after it was founded, pro-centralized advocates in our country were able to get a pro-centralized Supreme Court, which is our judiciary branch, to agree with their readings of certain clauses within the Constitution that enabled basically the federal government to be unchecked. It can do anything it wants. The states to this day are fighting to keep whatever powers they can have. And this does not directly deal with those clauses, which are called the General Welfare Clause and the Commerce Clause. But they will essentially bring back the United States government back to where the states have more power. And that's by creating a new politician within the United States, which is right now there are only federal politicians that can pass only federal laws. There's state politicians that can only pass state laws. It goes right down the line. County politicians can only pass county laws. Municipal politicians can only have municipal city politicians can only pass city laws. And there's even like school boards. Okay, we have lots of little governments that go right down the rabbit hole. This thing brings about a hybrid. It brings about federal and makes a federal and state politician. And in the United States, we have a U.S. Our government is divided up into three parts. India is parliamentary.
Yeah.
Have in America, we would consider your parliament to be like the House of Representatives. It represents the population. In America, your prime minister, we would call him the Speaker of the House, and they're all powerful. Your your parliament, if the judiciary branch voted a certain way you didn't like, parliament, okay, we'll just change that, or we'll replace the judges. Here in America, we have a division called check and balances, where we have an independent judiciary, an independent executive, which is U.S. president, and an independent legislative branch, which in our country broke up even further into two different parts. One was the House of Representatives, which is like your parliament based on population. And then we have a U.S. Senate, which is representing each individual state. And when my country was founded, and we first had the Article of Confederation, that was actually our first constitution. That failed, gave states too much power. And then the U.S. Constitution, which we have now, which is, I think, the longest living constitution in the world. It basically then, under Articles of Confederation, there was only one house, kind of like your government. The president was almost like a figurehead. Now we fixed that and fixed it by separating out the powers. And the problem with this is that federal politicians can only pass federal laws. State politicians can only pass state laws, and it goes right down the line. So the problem in my country is the federal politicians want to have as much power, just like any politician. They want power. Okay, it's all about power. Even a little tiny mayor in a little tiny village, they want power. Okay, and they'll take as much power as they can get to grab it, to whip it out of anybody's hands and have it. Never stand between a politician and more power. You'll just get run over. So the federal government, the federal politicians, that includes the U.S. senators, U.S. House of Representatives, and the president want more power because politicians want impact. They want to impact the world. And that's kind of understandable from a human nature standpoint. Those are my country, what we call founding fathers, which were the original members that created our Constitution. They wanted to have a very limited federal government. But anyways, these pro-central powers, after 100 years, they would get a Supreme Court to agree with them. And now we have a federal government that is unchecked. There's nothing it can do. The states fight every tooth and nail for the little powers they still have. And the federal government can stick their nose into everything because politicians want to have impact. If you can only pass federal laws, all problems are viewed as federal problems. Kind of like Bill was saying, to a hammer, all problems are nails. Okay. My amendment, state's First Amendment, creates a hybrid by having politicians that are both federal politicians and state politicians. This is by taking what we have currently. The U.S. Senate has 2 votes per state. There are 50 states in the United States. It eliminates them. And in place, it gives the governors those 2 votes, which basically then just becomes 1 vote in the U.S. Senate. So each of the governors can vote on can propose and vote on federal legislation. It takes then our House of Representatives, which you can probably like your parliament. And in our country, we have so many votes, which is 435 votes in the House of Representatives. This is based on population. And basically, I take each state gets so many votes. They vary. The more populous states have more votes. The less populous states, there are some states that only have 1 vote. But it takes those votes, and it takes their state assembly, which is kind of like the House of Representatives at the state level, and takes their number and divides those votes by that number. For example, let's say a state has 10 votes in the House of Representatives. They can take and their state assembly, which is what you would call kind of like their House representatives at a state level, would take those 10 votes, and let's say their state assembly has 100 members. We take that, divide 10 by 100, and then each member has 0.1% of a vote. They vote for legislation, all the fractions add up, and votes go one way or the other. This is so that now you have politicians who can basically, I believe, the end result will be is that you have governors and state assembly members who can then make a decision. Is this best handled at the federal level, or is this better handled at the state level? And my contention is that they will decide to do it at the state level because there are excuse me, in the United States of America, there's 435 state U.S. House of Representatives, but for state assembly members, there's 5,462 state assembly members. When you take all the state assembly members from all the states and you add them up. And I believe that politicians want to have impact, they want to have power, and that they will have more impact at their state level than they will have at the federal level. At a state level, say 100 representatives, they're one of 100. As opposed to at federal level, they're one of 5,462. So they want to have more impact, and so they will decide that they have more impact at the state level. So what can be handled at the state level will be handled at the state level, and what can only be handled at the federal level will be handled at the federal level. There are many federal departments, but I believe that there will only, after my amendment were to be added to the U.S. Constitution, I believe that they will eliminate all but 3 federal departments. That would be the Department of Defense, U.S. military, Department of State, diplomacy, and Department of Treasury, money, okay, printing the bills. All the other ones, all the other federal departments have their state equivalent at the state levels. All states have it. I'm sure, like you have provinces in India, correct?
Absolutely. We have the states. We have the states also. I will come to that.
Okay.
In fact, if you very quickly, then let me tell you in terms of, you see, when we worked on our constitution, we took a lot from the US Constitution as well as from the British Constitution and a few other places. Our founding fathers were very smart to take up, very good things. Like we have the separation of powers also. We have got independent executive, independent parliament, legislature, as well as independent judiciary. And then time to time, various arms of the government, they have exercised their powers. In terms of, the federal structure, we are partly federal, partly unitary. States are there, like the US, you have got 50 states, we have got states. We are a very, very diverse country, but very unified also. So in most of the cases, the states are very independent. In certain things, the central or the federal government has its own power. Ways of looking at things. We have got, just like we have got the Federal Reserve, we have the Reserve Bank of India. And in most of the things, if you look in terms of, you have got the Senate, we have got the lower house, the Rajya Sabha here, that represents the states. In terms of the House of Representatives, we have got the Lok Sabha here. So, almost the same, you can see, but yes, there are some ways it's a different. You are the world's biggest democracy, we are the world's largest democracy. So this is the large, our system that works.
What's interesting is speaking with you, being from India. I'm speaking to many different countries, okay? And majority of other countries, they're like the same geography. They're small countries. Give you an example. When I talk to a podcast from United Kingdom, to them, 2 hours is a phenomenal distance to travel across their country. We have a state in the United States, Texas, that if you were to drive at the legal speed limit, it would take you 12 hours to get across just that state. And they don't, I've had foreigners come to this country and they want to go to Washington, D.C., they want to see the Statue of Liberty, they want to go down to Disney World, and they want to see the Grand Canyon in a weekend. And like, pick one. That's all we're going to be able to do. But India is like America. You have all different. You have taller mountains than we do. We have the Rockies. You have the Himalayas. I assume you have swamps. We have Florida swamps. We have deserts. You have like the Soda Plain, or the disputed area between.
We have desert also,
Yeah,
but
desert.
not maybe not as large, but we have got deserts here.
But you have a variety of things, and each state has their own unique um, needs. And like in America, we have Florida, which will experience hurricanes. Well, in the Midwest, which is the center of the country, they never see hurricanes, but they see tornadoes. And on our West Coast, California, they have earthquakes, but earthquakes don't really happen in Midwest or in Florida. So I believe that it's better that the states are closer to the problem. And in this thing here, what I also do is I don't know if your country knows what we say here in America called the swamp. This is a negative term in America. It means dirty politics. It means lobbyists. It means padding money, slipping bribes to politicians, and that's what happens when we have them in Washington D.C. They're all in one location. Lobbyists can literally go down a hallway from door to door, meeting with different U.S. House representatives and different senators. I break them apart. I send them all back to the states. It's all telecommuting. Okay, there's a part of my amendment that has a president have to travel physically to every state in the union once a year, plus every U.S. territory. Well, there are 50 states. There's 52 weeks in a year, so every state would demand that he be there for 1 week. It doesn't matter if they're the opposing party, they'll still demand that president come there because it's a way to the whole nation will turn and look at that state for that period of time. So even if they hate the president politically or not of the same party, they want no, we want that week of national attention here. You better get here, and the U.S. territories will demand at least 1 day. And then I just take and make sure that DC doesn't. DC is our capital. Washington D.C. is our capital, national capital. And then I just make the Capitol Hill building, which is where our Congress is located, and our White House, which is the president's office and residence, is located. I shut them down and make them into we call them historical monuments, historical structures, no longer used, and turn them over to there's a big museum here.
Why do you want them to shut down? Where will these people operate from? And what will it lead to? What is the benefit that you will get out of this?
Well, by shutting down DC, like what we're doing right now, was when my country was founded. It was in 17. Well, it depends how you want to call it.
1785, if I remember that you have got the Philadelphia Convention.
What? Yes, and at that time, the fastest transportation communication was by horse or ship. Look what we're doing right now. We're doing instantaneous video conferencing from one side of the world to the other side of the world. Within the country, you can do that. We could put up a document, and we could both be working on the document at the same time, seeing the changes that each of us are doing to that document. So basically, what I'm doing is getting Congress, the U.S. Senate, and U.S. House Representatives to telecommute to work. Getting it back to there'd be state assembly members, which are the House Representatives at a state level. They're going to be at their state capitals still, and while they're there, they'll have their committee meetings, etc. So I'm spreading them. I'm getting rid of Washington D.C. and putting them back into the states, making it extremely hard for lobbyists to lobby. They go from 435 U.S. House Representatives and 100 U.S. Senators to, when you combine the state assembly members and the senators, it goes to 5,512. So lobbyists will have much harder time to do it. And then I just basically, Washington, D.C. is a federal district. It is actually in the state of Maryland. It's not legally part of Maryland. If you ever see a map of it, it looks like a square that kind of has a bite taken out of it. We had a civil war. That bite, it used to be a square. The Virginia went with the South, which we call the Confederacy at that time. And that's why Washington, D.C. is that way it is. My amendment simply strips them of their federal status and makes them part of Maryland. Another part of what I do is the amendment enables a way for other countries, if they want to join the United States. Unfortunately, in the United States,
Why do you want to expand so much Jack, already there is so much of resentment that US is, one of your president also said US, something like that, that US is the most warmongering countries of sort in the world. So and how do you, why do you want others to get into all these things, when you already are having so many things to deal with?
Well,
And
I believe.
who do you think are the likely candidates who would want to join, except
Oh,
for
I think
people
there's a lot. I
wanting
think
to become US citizens? But why move a
a lot
country
of countries there.
into that?
Okay, I think a lot of countries that have not well developed governments, that are coming out of civil wars, that are like there was a poll taken of Russians when the Soviet Union collapsed. They asked the Russians, if you could, would you want Russia to join the United States as a state? An overwhelming number of Russians said they would. There are countries that are in really poor shape. The military dictators, except, and every so often the population erupts and breaks that. And there's a moment in time in each one of those countries where their future is going to be decided one way or the other. And instead of reinventing the wheel, they might go and say, "Hey, we my amendment provides a non politicized way to join the United States. Right now, U.S. territory. There's a state in my state and country called Utah. We have in our Constitution is called freedom of religion. You can have any religion you want to have. We don't care. Okay. It's none of the government's business what religion you are. But when the Utah territory tried to join the United States, the nation was Christian. They said, "Oh no, 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 no! You got it. You got outlaw polygamy," and that's part of the Mormon religion was polygamy. And so they had to outlaw polygamy, and then they were made into a state. That type of stuff happens. There's a lot of politics, there's a lot of bribes that go one way or the other. My thing just says, okay, I'm not making it easy for anyone to join the United States, and I think it's really hard to join the United States. You have to have a two-thirds majority in your population to become a U.S. territory. You have to be a U.S. territory for at least 5 years. Two-thirds of your population have to be able to speak American English to read, write, and converse American English to at least an eighth grade level. And then you have to have another referendum where two-thirds say, yeah, we want to join the United States. Now, I also have there in that section where a U.S. state or U.S. territory only has to have a simple majority to leave the United States. There's a phrase in the United States we call love it or leave it. I believe that a U.S. territory, a U.S. state doesn't want to be part of the United States. It should be easier for them to leave than it's hard for people to join, because I don't believe a simple majority should be allowed to just decide if a country joins the United States, because then you're asking for a civil war. That's why two-thirds, which is the supermajority is 60%. A two-thirds is kind of like a super majority. It's really hard to get that. But if they do, then it's really that country saying, yeah, I'd really like to join. And just like they became a U.S. territory, and wow, we don't like this. We don't like how this is going. Well, they only need a simple majority to leave. And that's how. Do I think the whole world's going to join the United States? No, no, I don't think so. Japan will never join the United States. They like being Japan. There are many countries that are like that, but there are countries that are like Albania and Poland are very in favor of the United States. And Poland, when the Eastern Bloc collapsed, they forced onto all those people, well, we have to now create a government. And a lot of them turned to the United States and looked at it and, okay, well, we like this part and that part of the Constitution, kind of put in you did. And, just like we're from America is a British colony, just like India was. So our Constitution, it stems from them and their common law. And so I think, like Eastern Bloc at that time, again, polls were taken at that time, all of them. I don't think there was a single Eastern Bloc country that if the United States had let them have a way, they would have joined the United States. I mean, when Russia fell, we had the KGB members coming to our embassy trying to get employed. We had Soviet military generals coming and saying, "Can I work for you guys?" So, but once they get their own government going and stabilized, again, do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I think some little countries are going to join? Yeah, I think some will. There will be benefits if you join the United States. In the United States, there cannot be trade barriers between states. There can be no tariffs or anything like that. So economically, we're very prosperous because we don't have to have passports that go across the state lines. Their tariffs are outlawed, just out. Period, outlawed. There's a lot of cooperation between the states to get everything going. So, but there might be some, and I think it'd be fantastic. I'd love if this thing were to pass. I might be actually a little tiny bit of a celebrity, and I would love to go to a small little country to join the United States as a state and be there when they sign the thing. Wow, that's really cool. But I also trying to get how can I put it? I like to get the dirty politics out of how territories become states, which right now is just dirty. It is like again with Utah. It's just that's unexcusable since we had in our Constitution freedom of religion. But they did anyways because they could do it because well you're not part of the state yet, so we can do this to you, and they got away with it. So that's why. But do I expect the world to join the United States? No. But on the other hand, the more people that join the United States, the less we have a chance of world war. The United States becomes less. And as far as us being a warmongering, that's our politicians. That's our federal politicians. Vast majority of the United States are isolationists. We really don't want to be involved in your politics. We had to be dragged kicking and screaming into World War II. We had to be dragged kicking and screaming into World War One. We're an isolationist mentality here in the country. A lot of Americans would like to just close down all overseas military bases of ours, like to pull back we have 11 aircraft carriers. The whole world combined, we have more aircraft carriers than the whole world combined. Now, that's required by U.S. law. We have to have 11. But we can always change it because politicians can change laws. But I'd rather just reduce them down to 4, have 2 on the East Coast, 2 on the West Coast, maybe a 5th one out there so we can project our power. Someone gets a little bit crazy, we just send the aircraft carrier over there. Here's our mobile Air Force base. Do you really want to do this? Right. But being in America being imperialist, etc. No, American people, to be honest about it, we'd like to trade with you, but we'd rather just not have you come.
Many people will call you neo-imperialism. See, even the US has been under British rule. India has been under British rule for quite long. So I guess we understand the pain of being under, being under someone else who would only take away all your money to fill their coffers and do nothing for you. So why would you like to go towards this? You can develop countries even without them being part of your country. But I just want to understand, Jack, is that how are people taking to your idea of this particular new amendment?
I'm sorry. What was that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, how are people taking your idea? This idea, how are they taking? Yeah.
Oh, I'm just in my beginning stages of this. I'm limiting myself to just my Twitter account, and I'm right now just doing podcasts. I'm doing the proverbial cutting of my teeth. Every podcast I'm part of, is really interesting doing podcasts with other countries, because Americans would know a lot what I'm talking about right away. And I have to phrase it in such a way that maybe your viewers would have an easier time understanding what I'm talking about. But I'm just learning the questions that people ask. I'm about to have appear on the Shock Jock, which is in America, a Shock Jock is someone that's hostile. But he's already told me he's going to be hostile. Okay, cool. We're going to have that. If this thing takes off, I'm going to have every type. So right now I'm just doing podcasts. I'm not pitching radio or TV talk shows. I'm not pitching the mainstream press. I just want to cut my teeth on podcasts. And I mean, if like some podcasts ask, what can people do for this? And it's open to the whole world. Is just go to my Twitter account and just follow it. Whether you don't have to be in favor of it to follow it. If you just like to see what's happening, I'm posting like when your podcast. When you give me a link, I'll tweet out that link to all my followers on Twitter. And right now, I don't have billions of followers. I'm barely getting close to 800. But as I grow bigger and bigger, there's a very popular YouTuber who has tens of millions of followers, and he has told me that he'd like to interview me on his show. But I always hate it when they say "but." I have to have a million followers on X and Twitter before he'll have me on the show, and I understand why. He wants to have me bring people to the show. But also he emails me. He'll be watching this video with me or with what we're doing here. He has sent me notes every time I've appeared on our podcast. He sends me notes, and part of it is this learning process. So when I come to him, he's big. He has a bigger following. We have a I don't know if you know CNN. It's a
Of
news channel.
course, CNN. We all know we get CNN here since last many years.
Okay,
We are much more connected with the US. Perhaps you are aware of, Jack. We are
I,
very much
I,
US is the big apple. Everyone. So that is what I said. You talked about people wanting to be part of US. They want to get US dollars, be working with them. For
they want
that, they don't need.
to.
They want to come individually. They don't want the whole country to join US.
Well, we have some people in America that would like to have people just stay where they're at. But I'm a libertarian. I believe that um, our immigration laws should be what we had in the 18th century, basically turning away people who are known criminals and have incurable diseases. But in the 18th century, if you came here sick, uh, we had Ellis Island, and we would put you in a nurse hospital, cure you. Once you became well, then we allowed you to come in to the United States. We just didn't want you spreading a disease. Um, but I'd rather have our immigration policy go back to that. I don't like all the hoops that they have people go through now. And I think um, I like the world. Um, my best friend in college was from Pakistan. He was raised in Saudi Arabia. Um, my first significant girlfriend was from Cameroon, Africa. The one girlfriend that followed that one, and then I'm talking about live-in, was from Shanghai, China. I have had many friends. I'm a trucker. Okay, there are many Indians, not American Indians, but
Yes.
we have to find a different term for them. But Indians from India, okay, who are truckers, and they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. They'll get out and help you. Um, so I I like America that it's a mixing pot. There's a lot of cultures come in here. There's many people that are concerned about Palestinians going to Europe. I say, I personally come here. 2 million. We have 330 million. We have 331 million people in America. We can take 2 million Palestinians. They're not going to change our country, but we're a mixing pot. I mean, every. I mean, I don't know if you travel to America, but Indian cuisine is one of the favorites. I mean, the truth of the matter is, in the United Kingdom, that's the national cuisine is Indian. Okay, curry is everywhere. But here in America, we have Mexican. We enjoy all these different cuisines. I believe I don't in America, unlike our countries, like my former girlfriend from Africa, they could look at a person from Africa and she could tell you what country they're from just by how they looked. Okay, you go to Europe, you can tell who they are just by how they look. Here in America, the only way you can tell if a person's American, let them talk. Because when they talk, and not only do we know you're American, but you very likely are able to place, oh, you're from the South, you're from the Northeast, you're from the California, you're from the Midwest. You know, I believe in a melting pot. That's why I believe if we're to get more and more together, more countries are to join. Basically, America becomes almost impossible to even think about trying to defeat. And
Right.
I would like to have world peace. I'd like to have to where the idea of having militaries is not even, no one would even think this is even possible. And I think by having our countries, they can be just small countries, join the United States, we get closer to that point where we have in our country called the military industrial complex, a war machine. They like war. They make profit off of war. And that is a problem that in America we've been dealing with for a long time. We had during World War II, we had a general called Dwight D. Eisenhower. He's a 5-star general, ran the was in charge of the whole Allied side of the war. He became our president. And when he left office, his closing speech was warning Americans about the military-industrial complex. Here's a general warning American people about their own military and about the businesses that profit from that. And a lot of our, warmongering, it's just a profit center. They really don't care. These companies will sell to both sides. We sell to both sides. We sell to both Hamas and Israel. That's the truth of the matter. We give aid to both sides. Okay, it's just and we give military aid. You know how military aid is actually done? We give our old weaponry to that country, and then the government buys the newest military weaponry for itself. So when we give military aid to Israel, we're not sending them our best aircraft. We're sending our oldest aircraft to them, and then we're rearming our military with the better aircraft. There's a think tank in America called DARPA. I forget what the initials stand for, but basically it's our think tank. The internet was created by DARPA. Okay, the first internet was not civilian; it was military. It was designed so that if Russia came and tried to nuke us, they couldn't take out a communication node. You take out this node, well, then we don't have any communication. The internet we use it now for God knows what, but it really was so that you couldn't take it out. So I mean,
Right.
that would be just part of it. So, anyways, any other questions? Sorry.
Right. There is much to learn about it, and there is, and so I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn directly from you, Jack, about this, about your thoughts. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you, to learn from you, and learn about it?
The only way right now, realistically, is to just go and follow me on Twitter. You don't have to agree. It's just you follow me on. I'm my name on Twitter, I guess you call it, is the @ Jack, JACK, the letter T, then Decker, DECK, just like it is on here. Ooh,
Right.
just like, but with a T between Jack and Decker. And just like when you give me the link to this podcast, I post out now whenever I appear on a podcast. There are some podcasts that oddly don't want me to send out links to their podcast. I was surprised when I've had two that said no, they don't. I don't know why. So I respect that. You don't want me to send out your links. Otherwise, do. But that's the best way. You just right now I'm engaging, trying to get attention for that account. So I'm engaging ourselves. But eventually, I'll just be posting podcasts and radio and TV talk show appearances, and if I'm in a news article, I'll put a link to that, and then I'll be basically just talking to people, replying to their questions. If people want to do that, I really recommend that if you could, if you could please, publicly reply to a tweet, or put a tweet to a tweet that I put out instead of sending me a direct message, because I'm starting to get a lot of people sending direct messages to me, and I'm trying to reply to them all, but there's going to come a point where I don't have enough time in the day to reply to all the DMs. But I really try to make at least some type of reply when you reply to a public tweet. And if they really want to really help me, just join my Twitter follow me on that, and then just retweet out my tweets. I would prefer you just retweet out the tweets I talk about the state's First Amendment, not all my trying to get attention tweets. But you do what you like. But so follow me on Twitter, and if you like a tweet I put out, retweet it. That's right now. I'm just trying to build a following, trying to get up to 1 million so I can get on that YouTubers talk show. Once I hit 1 million, then I'm actually going to be approaching the national press and big talk shows, etc. But I'm just building up now, letting it organically grow. It's almost 800 now, which isn't a lot, but it's growing rather fast. It's only been in existence for, I think,
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.